for singing. Good morning. Welcome to Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast where we aim to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohamed, aka the Logistics Monk. With me is my good friend, Dan Deigan. What's going on this morning,
What
brother?
is going on, brother? How you doing, man?
Oh man, I've had such a great weekend. It was such a blessed and fulfilling weekend. Like I was kind of telling you off air. Saturday, we had an event that was local to me. So normally I gotta like travel like 30, 40 minutes for any event that we have, but this was the first time that I was about 5 minutes away. And we just crushed those sales, brother. We made so much money for animal rescue. Got to meet our local dog friends, so people that we take our dogs to the park with and all that stuff, and just meet some great friends. And shout out to like the communities you built because like so many people from our Toastmasters club came by and supported, and it was amazing. And then yesterday we did Mother's Day, which is amazing. We did the morning with my in-laws, and then we did the evening with my mom, and my heart's full. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but my heart's full. What about you, brother?
I was gonna say you had a crazy weekend, man. That's awesome. I love the fact that you go in-laws in the morning and then your mom in the afternoon. That's great. That's a nice way to get it done.
Yeah, it's you know what, it works for us, and that's the one thing, you got. And by the way, like I love my in-laws. My in-laws are like the greatest people I've ever met. So it's never a chore to want to do these things. So it's amazing to we always kind of do that. Or I think I told you as well, we're getting our backyard done. So maybe next year or maybe Father's Day, we'll have everybody come over to our house instead. So we'll
There
kind
you
of see
go,
how that
buddy.
kind of goes.
That's do you like entertaining?
I love entertaining. I've learned that from my parents. My parents are big entertainers. The reason is because when they came to Canada, they didn't know anybody, like really didn't know anybody. So when they got the opportunity to entertain people, and we always had parties at our house. So I love entertaining. I love cooking. I love buying food. I love seeing people just have a good time, and I think that's one of the
Yeah.
best things. And my wife would probably say she doesn't like entertaining because of the cleanup aspect afterwards. But that's how it rolls, man. What about yourself?
Same thing. I love entertaining. I love it. I mean, we had we have family barbecues every summer where the whole family and I won the in-law lottery. And Christine's side of the family is huge, right? Like my side of the family, it's literally around here, it's just my mom. And and so I mean there's 20, 25 people, and I know some people are looking going, that's not a party. But we I mean, cooking at one point, there was one barbecue where I had two barbecues going, like two full-on barbecues, and shrimp on one, skillets, and pork loin. And oh yeah, I'm huge on entertaining. Huge on entertaining. Love it.
And that's
Love
why
it.
we
But
get
I
along.
also hate the cleanup portion. I find also, depending on the amount of time, like especially with the in-laws, like my father-in-law comes from Penetang, right? So he's 2.5 hours away. So he has very limited time that he can spend here because he leaves his dog at home. So, 2.5 hours, there's 5 hours already that he's gone just in driving and then spending time here. So I find sometimes when you're hosting, and you're having to like make sure all the meals are prepared, and you're making sure everybody's got drinks, and you're making sure all the snacks are being refilled, you lose a little bit of that quality time with chilling and hanging, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a toss up,
It is,
but if
and I
everybody
can.
stays for hours, you're golden.
You're golden. And for us, we don't have that problem because like my mom lives about 5 minutes away and our in-laws are about 30 minutes away. So that's like we kind of essentially kind of pick this place for that specifically. But hey, you never know, no. So I know today is Mayhem Mondays. So let's hit our
You
video and
got
let's
it.
get into what a topic. Let's go, baby.
Let's do it.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we go. Always love that video. So, brother, play it on me, man. What do we got? Are you gonna be the one to stop it today? I think we should take turns, right? I'll imaginary be doing that cue card list, and then we'll have you be the one to stop it today.
All right, so let's do that.
That was easy.
Oh, see. So this one's an interesting one. Google yourself what's there. So with
Ooh.
that, yes. So what I mean by that is, um, one thing that I've constantly come across is majority of traffic managers, majority of VPs of logistics, majority of CEOs that you go in and have a meeting with, they've Googled you. And if they haven't, I operate like they have. Again, we talked about this when we talked about our what we talked about last week, where it's like operate, work as if. So kind of some things that I wrote down was, you know, mainstream, they Google you before you meet. And sometimes their opinions made up before they even meet you. Social media, what does it say about you and your life? Be something other than a sales rep, right? So, and what I mean by this is I'll share a quick story. So there's a company called Enersys Batteries, and Enersys makes those big bulldog batteries for like forklifts and all that kind of stuff. And they're everywhere. I mean, for every forklift company, they got batteries, and they're huge. And I went in and saw the traffic manager there, and we were sitting talking, just first meeting, and she gave me some lanes to quote on, and I was like, okay, no problem. And she says, like, listen, here's the thing, Dan. Like, it takes a while to get in here, but once you're in, you're in. And I said, okay, no problem. I mean, those are my ideal clients, right? Those are ones that I want to nurture that relationship with and get in. And within a week, I was back in our office with my numbers. And I walked out with all of their distribution for Toronto, Montreal, all of the line haul Toronto, Montreal. And I kind of stopped halfway back to my office, and I thought, that just was, you ever have those where it was like, that was too easy. So I get back to my office and I called her and I said, Cheryl, I just have to ask. And I said, it might be stupid that I'm asking, and it might be a really, an issue that, I don't know, maybe it's going to change the way we're going to do business, but why did you give me so much right at the beginning? And she says, well, I Googled you. And she came across a website that I was hosting at the time called Little Conversations Today. And it was my first kind of intro into interviewing people. And what it was is because this was just after I lost my company. I was having a really hard time in my life. And so I wanted to understand how people thought. And I couldn't afford any huge programs. So I started reading books and contacting the authors. And then I would ask them questions about their books and recorded it all on Skype and put it on a website and called it Little Conversations Today. So she actually went through that website and realized I wasn't just some sales rep that's trying to get into her wallet. And it changed my perspective about being a logistics sales rep and having a life of trying to help other people. And so when I look at this, Ryan, I think, when it says social media, what does it say about you? All the social media posts you put about saving animals, right? Like, you're a human behind the salesperson. And when we call traffic managers or our prospects, a lot of the times we're just a salesperson. And there's a massive difference between that, being that humans, having these dreams, these ambitions, and the desires to do what you do. I guarantee you comes into play after people have Googled you. I guarantee it. I'll stop there for a second. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, a couple things. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think it's really important that you do that. So while you're kind of like talking and while I'm listening, I actually Googled both of our names, just to kind of see what popped up on Google, right? And then there's a bunch of stuff, and I would encourage everybody who's watching. I'm gonna share a quick story about that, kind of similar to yours, but this was when I wasn't in logistics. When I was working in retail, actually, I worked at Carter's Oshkosh as a part-time manager. I think for maybe about a year, I think I did. And the store manager, I went into the interview and all that stuff, and they hired me, and obviously I worked there. But she made a comment one of the days, I think one of my first few shifts, she was like, oh, so how do you do your hair, like a certain pose, like a selfie that I took on my Facebook? And I asked her, I was like, oh, so you checked out my Facebook? And she's like, yeah, that's what we do. We've got to see, hey, if they're going to fit with a team. And you look at something that's retail, there's maybe only like 6 to 8 people there. So the scale of bringing somebody on who's going to be a great fit for culture is a lot higher than you work for a big corporation where there's like hundreds of people, right? You don't care if they're a culture fit or not. So you look at small teams and you look at brokerage teams, right, as well, because like the team that I work with, I think there's only about 8 of us as well. So you look at that congruency, and I think being able to have a social media profile, that personal branding is so important. And I love that you said that about what your Enersys battery said about you, the logistics manager, because I use a hashtag a lot whenever I do my social posts on LinkedIn, more than a freight broker. And that for me, I do that on purpose because at the end of the day, hey, we do want business from a customer, but I want somebody I can relate with. I do these animal stuff, and I don't do these animal stuff because so I can get animal pet food customers or anything like that. This is just a part of
No,
my life, and that's why I mentioned at the beginning. So it's like if I was to have a conversation with somebody, then I can easily identify with them, and then we could talk business. Because if we get along, then we can do business. So I think when it comes to social
100%.
profiles, because a lot of us here, I always used to be a big fan of saying this, especially to you, was that a lot of my prospects and customers, they're not on LinkedIn. They just have a profile just to have a profile, but you never know who's lurking, right? You never know who's going to be looking at your profile or looking at the things that you kind of post or things like that. And I know Jeff's in the comment here. Shout out to Jeff. He's doing a show today, but he was a logistics manager and he would kind of like, people would kind of go based on referrals. So you can go referrals or whenever you kind of get people to know who you are and build that relationship itself. So I want to ask you this question as we're talking about personal branding, just not for Google specifically. I think people should stretch that to their network. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Make sure your Facebook profile is up to date. Make sure your Instagram, make sure all the social media, like a lot of people say, oh, this is my private time, or like I can post whatever I want and all this stuff. And I tend to stay away from doing like controversial stuff, even though it might be my opinions or my thoughts or something like that, just because you can't, I still represent, like I know we talk about logos, I still represent a logo. I'm Ryan Mohamed, but I still work with a company too. So it's like you got to be mindful of what you kind of put on social media because Dan, you can attest to this too. Whatever goes on social media, whatever goes on the internet, it stays there. There's good,
Yeah.
even if you delete a post or you delete a tweet or you delete something, somebody could have screenshot that, and that's why we see a lot of trouble these days about your image, credibility, and brand. I'll mention I'll let you go there, and then I'll mention another story that actually happened yesterday in the NBA world, where it's just like it's pretty crazy. But yeah, just getting back to it, Dan. How do you personally feel about like your social profiles on everything outside of Google?
So here's the thing. Anyone who says this is personal,
Hmm.
don't be on social media
Yeah, or make it
because
private.
it's not. Or make it totally private, right? It's not. And anyone can find you through a friend. Like it's when I was at a billion-dollar brokerage, the recruiting manager and the HR manager would be scouring people's social medias all day. Like even just we would put out an ad in Indeed for a new sales rep, and we'd have junior reps coming in straight out of college, and they would go through their social media profile and look and say, okay, do they fit the culture? Not just small teams, big teams do it. And you just don't see, you might not see it because it's an HR department that sees it, but the big, like we were a huge team and they would do it all the time. And they'd say, yeah, no, not interested, too controversial, too many this, too many that, whatever. Or yeah, it fits right in with the theme of our company. I've said for over a decade now, sell something else, right? Everybody sells freight. Sell something else. Sell image, credibility, brand. That's what I sold. I didn't sell freight. Very rarely did our conversations ever get to freight until about the second or third conversation. It was all about the image, credibility, and brand of my prospect. All of it. Because in the end, what do they care about? Themselves. We all care about our image, our credibility, and our brand, even if it's just in our company. Like some people are like, well, I don't really care if a customer hates me or not. Well, that's fine. You don't care, but they're going to tell 10 people are going to tell 10 people. Eventually that ripple hits the shore, right? That throwing that rock in the pond, there's eventually the wave hits the shore. And you're everything you do, anything on Google, anything like here, we're broadcasting to YouTube. You think about it, you Google your name, any show you've been on, any time you've been tagged, anytime you're in a description. LinkedIn is one of the best ones because LinkedIn typically comes up almost at the top of every search when you type somebody's name. Almost always their LinkedIn profile is the first thing you see. And so, that whole, I call it the real estate agent issue, where they got a picture that's like 15 years ago and it looks nothing like them. You know what I mean? Like but
It's like
again,
dating pictures, dating on like Tinder or like Plenty of Fish or something like that. It's like, and you meet them in person, you're like, this was 30 pounds ago, like.
yeah, yeah, the other way too. It's so important. And I know I'd have a conversation like this with my kids and say, like, listen, employers look at that. Yeah, but that's my social media. They shouldn't. I'm like, well, they do. Because what a better way to find out exactly who you are, right? And think about that from a traffic manager, right? Is this person the person they say they are, or the person they act like on the phone? And it's actually a really big question, because I'll tell you, when I first started, it was like when I would walk in the door, it'd be this different Dan in business and in pleasure. And if we had social media when I first started, and if clients checked it, I would probably never get a client.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. And I think it's important. I think it's important that, as much as um, you're not doing it in the digital world, like we're a bit different. We get clients because of the podcast. They hear the podcast and like, hey, we want to talk to you. We want to work with you. But a lot of people don't use this medium to get clients, and why not? What I don't know how many people I've told to that now have daily podcasts. I've been an advocate for it. Just turn on a camera and start talking and be you,
Yeah.
and customers will find that. I
Mhm.
believe every single agent in the world of logistics should have their own website.
Yeah.
I believe it wholeheartedly. So when somebody Googles you, you have a website talking about who you are as a person, because there's a difference between us saying it and our customers saying it. So when customers give you a reference letter, take a section of that reference letter and use it as a blurb on your website. Like this is the reality of our world, and it's going to become even more. I think in the next 5 years, as a freight salesperson, if you don't have your own website above and beyond your companies, I don't think you're going to be considered to be legit.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
you
But
look at how it started with companies. It was like, oh, where's your website? Where's your
yeah.
website? Like I found we have a water filtration system. And this guy came by and said, okay, we're no longer billing through direct energy. We're billing through our company now. I said, okay, fine. I said, where's the website I go to register? He says, well, you'll get a phone call. I said, okay. So I literally got a phone call. They sent me a link. I made sure it was legit. I clicked on it and I said, I would never give somebody my information at my door. It just doesn't work like that anymore. But back in the day, it did.
Yeah. Soliciting.
It's different.
Yeah. I love to agree to disagree on that one. In terms of like having a
Go for
website
it.
in a couple of years, and the reason why I say that, Dan, is I think you should have a personal brand itself. I don't think a website necessarily negates it. Anytime somebody sends me a website, I don't know what the number is, but I know for myself, Dan, 99% of times, anytime I check a website, it's on my phone. Right. So it has to be a mobile
Yep,
friendly website that I'm going to check, or it has to be
100%.
ease of use. There's been so many times, and I'll talk this about my personal life as well, that, hey, we're looking at a restaurant, their website doesn't have a menu, and or they don't
Yes.
have pricing. There's been so many places that have like disqualified themselves from me going to me and my wife, and not to say like it's like it means anything, but it's just those little things, especially those small businesses, right? And I think when it comes to website, I think your LinkedIn should like be at the top of it. Like I look at somebody who's like Kat, who's here, and she does like videos, like daily videos. She was talking about Blitz Week this morning in her video, and the first time that she's going through it, and some of the things that she's learning herself. So I think you kind of show that a little bit. I think there's a little bit of grain of salt for people actually. Like if you have a completely blank profile, then you need to beef that up a bit. I would say, whether it be LinkedIn specifically, because logistics managers want to be able to see that. But there's going to be some of them who really just don't care. They just need to. Depends on your relationship, and you kind of talk about the logos that they're with, right? Like if they've got 100 loads on the table and they just need to get them covered, they don't really care. Because I've kind of found too on the opposite side of it, Dan, that a lot of top brokers that I kind of talk to, like our peers in the league, in the industry, they don't really have any. They don't post on social media and stuff like that. They're kind of like unknown, but they've built that rep through whether it be in-person meetings or doing networking events. You look at the golf course and stuff like that. Like our company, we have like a weekly thing. It's just you have those conversations with people, like genuine conversations, rather than a phone call. Go and visit, let people get to know you, take them out for lunch, or different things like that. So I think for when we talk about Googling yourself specifically, it's great to have those different interests, because I love that you said the little conversations today. It gives another side of Dan. It's more than a broker. It's like, like with your situation that you went through in the last year, you can talk to somebody who's been through that, or everybody has a family member who's been through that, right? So we're all related somehow. There's always going to be some kind of branch. For me, I utilize me being an animal lover to that, because hey, if I'm finding a logistics manager and we got a meeting booked, I didn't do any research yet, I'm gonna find out. Like, I'm gonna go through their socials. I'm gonna go through the LinkedIn. I'm gonna go through their Facebook. I'm gonna go through the Instagram, whatever. And it's not about getting ammo, like, to weaponize. It's just, let me figure out who this person is, and then let them kind of paint the picture. Because I don't know, this is weird to kind of say this, but has there been a time in your life that you talked to somebody on the phone, you've never met them, you've never seen anything about them, and then you're like, okay, let me Google them right after I get off that phone call, and you're like, oh, this person sounded like the person I just talked to on the phone, or maybe the opposite. Maybe they don't look like the way that they sound and things like that. But has that ever something that kind of goes through your mind as well?
So for me, it was actually reversed. As soon as the ability to start Googling people came out, that's what I've done. So I will not talk to somebody until I Google them. Like, if somebody's going to take up time on my calendar, I want to know it's going to be worth it. And I've, like, even the meeting we had, or the meeting we didn't have a couple of weeks ago, Googled the company, kind of Googled them, like, okay, they're a small company. They're probably looking for North American coverage. Sounds like I'll take them in. And they ended up saying, well, they have all the information, and we ended up shutting the meeting down. That to me was a fail on my part, because I didn't do my due diligence that I would. But even students that just go to my website and say, I want 30 minutes free, I Google them, and I find out kind of what they're about and all that kind of stuff before I get on the call, because I don't really want to use my time unless it's going to be beneficial to every party involved, and mainly the student.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a different conversation, and it's one where it's, if you go on their social media and it's like, oh yeah, I got this, oh I didn't get that, I got this, I didn't get that, I got this, I didn't get that, the conversation's going to start with, why is it always 90% of the way and then never ending? Because I want to get to the root of the issue right away. But when I first started, there was no Google. So we would literally have conversations with people, and my VP and I used to do it all the time on the plane, saying, okay, what do you think they look like? And we get there and we'd be totally wrong, like totally wrong. But now, most of the time, prior to the second conversation, I've always looked them up. Like, I don't actually do it when I'm prospecting in the first conversation, because 95% of the time I don't even know who is the real decision maker. So I got to get to that,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of reversed for me in that aspect. But yeah, there's a ton of times where there's a few times, sorry, where it's been, that's exactly what I thought they would look and act like, and mannerisms and all that, and way more of the time it's like, yeah, no, didn't even I was wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we kind of get out of that judgment too. So I think, just coming back to the topic where it says, like, Googling your name and what you kind of want to show, it's my rep, like my brand. I've actually been really good at that, like even before coming to logistics, like being mindful of like what I kind of post. And I don't know, there's nothing more embarrassing. If you ever want firsthand embarrassment, Dan, go to Facebook and like look, there's a memories button. And you could click your memories button, and it shows you what you've posted over the years on that certain day. So that, like, 2014 to like 2015, Ryan was he was going through some stuff, man. He was a weird fella, man. He was definitely going through some things. So I think, like, go in with the mindset and don't be scared about it, right? We're not trying to tell any people here like, oh, like, be so mindful of it that you don't do it. Like, that's what we always talk about, analysis paralysis. I actually had a conversation with a really good friend today, just kind of like just telling them, like, I know rejections kind of happen. This is really a hard market, but if you can penetrate, you're setting up your life for good. And don't worry about, like, it kind of gets caught up in like research. And I'm like, forget the research, man. You and I, we sat with some top guys, and we all had the same theme, where we don't research until we got something scheduled in our calendar. But coming back to it, it's just doing things that will make the prospect and you kind of come together. You're not trying to attract them. It's not trying to be like when you're trying to get your girlfriend or boyfriend, you're trying to be that nice, like, honeymoon phase. But what you're trying to do is just be yourself. Because when I think about these things, Dan, I go on like LinkedIn and I see like carriers complaining about broker. You see that battle all the time, right? And it's just like, what are you putting out into the universe? What are you putting out online that you're going to say that, I will undercut a broker, I will undercut a customer? People, those things travel far. even though you might have like a small following and things like that. So just be mindful of what you're doing, but be consistent with it. Have fun with it, show your side of it, because like we always kind of always come back to the themes. People work with people, they don't work with logos, but you still represent a logo at the end of the day, unless you have like your own company, right? But that's a little bit different.
Yeah, but I mean, even with your own company, it's not just because you have a logo. People don't work with your logo; they work with you. So
Yep.
even if it's your own company, it doesn't matter. It still comes down to the individual. Like, think of it like this also. After you have a conversation, go back and find out who that traffic manager really is, because they could have one side on the phone and one side when things go wrong. And social media is a great place to find out how people are at the bad times. Because how many times do you see people post, oh, this blah 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 blah, blah, just complaining and this and that? And I've gone on and kind of, I don't know if the word's creeped or whatever it is, but some old customers, and I've been like, I should probably actually stay away from this person. And I didn't trust my gut at that point. And within 3 months, I was like, oh my god. And then all of a sudden, you see a post, and it's about you, where he or she is complaining, and it's like, oh my gosh, I should have trusted my gut. It's a really good place to find out exactly who people are.
Yep. I think for
Exactly.
me, I think for me, it's just like using it more. So I haven't come across that yet in my career, but it's more for me to get to know who what the person likes. Like I'm not gonna if I see a picture of them like on social media. So and I'm not saying being a stalker, but who cares, right? But I'm not saying like, hey, like they went to a Dave Matthews Band concert last night. Don't call them and lead in, hey, I saw you at that. That's a little, like be mindful of it, right? But understand if the conversation ever comes up to be like, who's your favorite musician? Already know that and use that as kind of like your I want to say, like I said, I don't want to use the word ammo, but you just want to kind of gather things about the file. Like you look at dating somebody, Dan, especially if you're dating. Usually, most relationships happen because you're dating within your circle, right? You have like a really good friend or friend
Mhm.
of a friend or a cousin or family member, and they're like, "Hey, this is my cousin or whatever, or this whatever." You're always gonna ask somebody about them. Right, you're always gonna kind of be like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on Jane?" Like, I kind of digging her. What would your advice kind of be? So, always kind of be a little bit curious when you're talking to people when they Google your name. Like, especially like Dan. Like I love that I Google both of our names. Dan Deegan, everything shows up. Ryan Mohammed, not everything shows up. Right. So it's even if they have a common name and different things like that, but just make sure that you can kind of
What's the top of
have
the list when you Google you?
sorry?
What's the top of the list when they Google
Some
you?
director of finance at another company with the same name. So that's the
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's not me, but here's the thing: I show up in the images. So the first thing, so I'm like the fourth picture, and it actually shows my LinkedIn profile. So it literally
There you
says
go.
my
Yeah.
thing, and then the second
Exactly.
one is going to be actually my matchmaker.fm, which is our podcast directory. It kind of pulls up to there too. So I think that people could find you based on that. But I wish I was the first
Oh yeah.
result, and I don't know if I gotta pay somebody to make that kind of happen. But shout out to Ryan Mohammed, whoever is that CPA, Director of Finance at Fidelity Canada. It's because he's
Well,
definitely
that's
catching it.
probably Fidelity Canada. So that's coming from the website.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is Google, right? So it's
So
pretty cool to kind of see.
no, but that's their website. So that's what I'm saying is that if you could have a website where you keyword it properly, and Ryan Mohammed, the freight sales agent that
Yeah.
helps people achieve their goals, comes up above and beyond that CPA.
Well, I say so just for transparency, that's actually his LinkedIn profile, and the one thing I was actually gonna make a comment is that I find Google kind of especially if you're searching names, it goes by like social profiles first. So like it'll be Facebook, it'll be
Yes.
YouTube, it'll be Instagram. So you'll see those right away, and then you'll probably see like the yellow pages and things like that. But I feel like we're getting a little bit
That's why LinkedIn is typically the first one
yeah,
usually that comes up when you
yeah,
Google somebody's name. Yeah.
100%, 100%.
And I'm
Especially if you're
surprised your LinkedIn isn't right below his.
I don't. I got to talk to somebody, man. If you who owns LinkedIn, by the way, we got to figure out who owns LinkedIn, and we'll shoot them a message, to kind of come back on here. But I think like we're coming back to it. I think it's just so important. I've lived this my whole life, but whatever you put out on the internet, it's gonna be there forever. And always kind of give a good vibe off of what you're doing because, like we always kind of say, you want to bring that onto you if you're the type of person that says, hey, my personal, please just make it private, man. Just really make it private, and just kind of block that away, right? Because I could say I know Drew, who watches our show, like he does like weekly games with his customers, like F1 racing. And and I think Danny, maybe we'll talk about this when we're talking about ideal client profile. You got to identify how close or how further away or that separation that you want from your customers. Some people want to become buddy buddy. Some people just want to operate on a business. I don't want to say transactional, but they just want to do business with them. So it's like, okay,
Yep.
low tender here. Let's do your goals. We'll crush it or whatever. But I'm not necessarily going to talk to you about the lease collapsing on Friday. I'm not
Yep.
necessarily going to talk to you about the things I did on the weekend, but I just want to maintain that level of separation between you. So you got to figure out what you're comfortable with and kind of work from the inside out
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, because some people aren't comfortable if something goes wrong to get assertive or with a friend,
Mm.
right? It's just not in some people's manners. It's or some people's DNA makeup. So they're going to keep you at a little bit further of a distance because if something does go wrong, they feel like they can give you that bad news or whatever without going home and losing sleep. For again, they're humans. We're human, right? Like this is just what it is. Some people just hate conflict, so they're going to keep you as far away as possible with also keeping you close, but as far away as possible as they feel comfortable. If something goes wrong, that they can fire you.
Yeah.
It's humans, like,
It's
and
business.
that's just the way we're built. Some people don't care. Some people go through things in their life where it's like, okay, like I've started to really speak up after cancer, and I'm like, no, not interested, no, not even close, no. And sometimes I'm a little too abrupt, and I have to work on it. But there was times in my life where I would keep my mouth shut, and I just refused to be that person anymore. Like and it was, and we'll get into it maybe on another show sometimes. But it was serious stuff. It was like things that I really wanted to do and had an opportunity to do it, and employers saying, "Well, no, you can't do that because of this." I'm like, okay, and because I didn't want to rock the boat, I didn't want to, like it's people are people,
Mhm.
and some people have no issues. Like Ryan, you and I, we have no issues saying, "Yeah, I kind of disagree with that," and we move on,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like
Right.
no issues
We're still friends at
whatsoever.
the end
I've
of the day.
had,
Like at the end, that's what you got to
of
understand, right? It's
course,
yeah. So that doesn't, and I feel like I watch a lot of podcasts, I watch a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, and I feel like when you can kind of have that agree to disagree and be like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go. We're not here to be yes men, and we're not here to be yes men for our customers. We're here to make sure that they hit whatever they want to hit, and that's why I'm a big fan of find out what their goals are. What do they want to really accomplish? Am I just gonna be another broker on their list of 100, or am I gonna be somebody who makes a change? And you know what? Like we kind of do this. Always kind of go for that business. But if you want to be transactional and be that hundredth broker, some people are crazy successful in that window, right? So we're telling you guys
100%.
do whatever you kind of want to do, take it with a grain of salt. But this is what we've done personally. And we've not to say the word success because you're never really successful, but these are the things that kind of work for us, and maybe it'll work for you, maybe it'll not. But it is
Yeah,
just thought provoking at the end of the day.
yeah. I mean, I've got probably I can count on one hand really good customers that became friends,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like really good. Bob being one of them. Bob's in Jersey, but Jeff knows Bob. Bob's been on our show before. I talk to Bob every 6 months, but it's like
yeah,
time's never passed,
yeah.
right? And we're still really good friends. If I called him tomorrow and said, "Brother, I need you, man," he would be here at the drop of a dime. And he's in Jersey, and he would be here instantly.
Yeah.
And but I've had thousands of customers, and a lot of the times the customers and you are friends while you're doing business because there's a mutual need for each other.
Yep.
And when that need is gone, that friendship eventually separates.
It's just
Eventually.
life. It's just life. It's like,
It's
when you
life.
work at a place too, you work at a place and let's say you're like, hey, you guys always go for wings and beer every Thursday, right? But when one person leaves, you're like, yeah, we'll hang out. You probably get together maybe once or twice after somebody's left, and then boom, it's like, okay, forever. And it's just a natural progression of life. So as we're kind of coming
Or
coming
you
up to
get
the end,
married and you
it's
you know
life.
like
Yeah.
like yeah.
It's awesome to kind of say like it's like you're kind of saying like life situations happen, and that's the way. It's perfectly fine to do that and understand that it's all real and it's all genuine. So Dano, give us three top takeaways from today, and then we'll wrap up the show.
So I love yours. Be mindful of what you post. I be yourself, but just be mindful, because if you're the important customers are going to search you and are going to find out who you are, because they want to know who they're doing business with. And I believe more and more now, especially in today's environment and today's economic, we've had many customers come on the show and say, I can't be wrong anymore. Like, it's no longer where I could be wrong, which their due diligence comes in even more, right? Number two, I think, just, sell something else. We've said it before, sell something other than freight. Like, even if you have 2-3 conversations that have nothing to do with freight, if you and the individual get along, your actual sales timeline will decrease. It will decrease regardless. And number three for today, gosh, what would be the third takeaway? You know what? It was something you said, Ryan. It would be, agree to disagree. And I would say agree to disagree with everyone you come in contact with, because I think it creates transparency and integrity and honesty in everything you do. That'd probably be where I'd go, brother.
All right, I love that. I thought it was amazing, especially the agree to disagree, and it's just not be a combative. It always kind of started at a place with love. I just add with that. So, if you found value in this,
You're
which I know
absolutely
you
right there.
did, please like, subscribe, comment, share this with a friend, share this with a neighbor, share this with the contractors that are hustling outside in this hot weather, putting together amazing projects together. I know we got some back, but there's people building townhomes across. So share it with them. Maybe they'll want to do their social media posts as well. So you just never know. So we'll be back at 2:30. No, we won't do 2:30 because that's Jeff's show. Speaking of which, Bodacious Cowboys Life Lessons and Logistics at 2:30. Definitely one of our amazing friends who's always supported our show and been on the show. So we'll definitely be there and support him as well. So maybe we'll hit the replay maybe a little bit earlier, or maybe we won't even do a replay. We'll see with that. But Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And tomorrow we have an amazing guest, somebody that I actually work with, and a good friend of mine, Mark, will be joining us from TPZ Logistics out the Calgary branch. So Dan O, with that being said, take us home, my friend.
Yeah, buddy. Definitely for Jeff, all y'all that can, please go out and support him. We're going to be there with him today. Check out our new website, saleschatterlive.com. We actually stream the show right on the Sales Chatter Live page as well. We're going to add a comment button, because I think I said that last week and I just realized as I said it, I didn't add the comment button. We'll add a comment button. Go grab your free tools, go grab your strategy sessions and all that kind of stuff at saleschatterlive.com. Subscribe, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.